Hey everybody, welcome to Jersey's Garage. Today we're finishing up this 1997 Softail, this Evo motor. Right now we've gotten to the point where we're going to do the adjustable push rods, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about doing the adjustable push rods. Now a lot of places will actually, dealerships and aftermarket shops, if they're just doing cams, what they'll do is they'll cut the original push rods that you have in there with a bolt cutter, which seems to be standard now in the industry, and they'll put adjustable push rods in there. Well, there's some stuff you need to know about when you're doing adjustable push rods and how to do them correctly, and that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to try to teach you guys how to do the job correctly. I've done these out of the 14 years, I've done these a million times, and we're going to show you how it's done. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be doing is these push rods obviously have threads, right? So there's fine thread and then there's coarse thread push rods. So there is a big difference on what that means, okay? Coarse thread push rods, you're going to adjust these from top dead center, okay, to 3.5 turns, okay? Fine thread push rods, you're going to adjust these push rods to 4.5 turns, okay? 4 1/4 to 4.5 turns on these push rods. Now, these here are actually coarse thread push rods, okay? So we're going to be adjusting these to 3.5 turns from slightly tight. So right now, okay, you can see I can move these push rods around just a little bit, and that's what you want. You don't want them all the way tight when you start off, okay? You want to be starting off at just slightly loose, okay? So now what we're going to do, I'm moving the camera around when I'm not supposed to be, all right? We'll be a little closer here. So now what we're going to be doing is, we already have this engine set at top dead center. And what that means is both lifters or tappets are down. So that means these valves would be closed in normal operation, okay? So now that we have the piston at the top of the cylinder, okay, at the top of the combustion stroke, which would be the compression stroke, and the valves would be, the lifters would be in a closed position, which means that makes them at bottom closed position, which means they're all the way down. They're not on the top of the cam lobe, okay? All right, so now we can adjust these. The way that we adjust these is, since this is, we want to make sure this is not as tight. I like that kind of loose, okay? That's kind of snug. All right, that's where we want to be. Now what we do is we go ahead and we put a little dot, okay? That's how you're gonna tell how many turns you have done. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going on this one, it's a 9/32 wrench and a 1/2 inch wrench, okay? The 1/2 inch is to turn the push rod. Okay, there's 2 nuts here. This is to tighten it, this is to turn it. So we're going to go ahead and we spin it around. The dot comes back to us, that's 1 full turn. Spin it around again. You can notice it's getting tight now because we're putting pressure. That's 2 full turns, okay? And now we spin it around again. That's 3 full turns. Now we go a 1/2. So we're gonna go from here and it should be pointing to the back of that, facing that cylinder. So now we go to 3.5 turns, okay? Now at this point, we let this sit, all right? And what's gonna happen is it's going to bleed the lifter down, okay? So we've actually pumped these up manually because we've replaced the lifters on this and we've pumped it up manually. So now we gotta go to the next push rod. All right, you hear that? That's fine. All right, it is loose. We make a dot so that we can see it. Take our 9/32. I'm gonna go ahead and bend this just a little bit so I can get my, and make my mark a little better. And we're going to take our 9/32, put it on the flat end of that push rod, and make sure we got our correct. Okay, and sometimes you can actually turn them by hand until it gets tight. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. All right. If you haven't had Loctite on them, it makes it easy. Okay, that's 3.5. Okay, so now we're gonna let that bleed down, and we let that bleed down for a few minutes, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're going to tighten these up. All right, and then we're going to swing the motor around to the back cylinder top dead center. And pretty much that is how you do the adjustable push rods, but we're going to continue on with this video doing the back push rods because there's more to this, and we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so now that we have these, actually let them sit and bleed the lifters down. Okay, now we can go ahead and check to make sure that they actually are spinning freely. That's the point, is once you get them tight, you want to be able to spin them freely, like so. Okay, I'm able to spin them, so you know that they're actually tight. All right, so now what we do in this case is we're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten these up. Now this is where things get a little tricky. Okay, now we need to have 2 1/2-inch wrenches or 9/32. Okay, and then another, we have a 1/2-inch wrench, another 1/2-inch wrench, and then our 9/32. What we're doing is we need to now tighten this up, and what a lot of guys will do is we'll go ahead and put Loctite on there, and I've already Loctited that. So now what we'll do is, and here's where it gets tricky, we take our 1/2-inch wrench and we hold 2 wrenches in our hand and tighten that down as hard as we can. Okay, and then we go and do the same thing. Now we're gonna, once we get them tight, we're gonna swing it around and do the next side. So I'm gonna tighten this one up and we'll get to the other side. All right, so the next thing we're gonna be doing is we gotta spin the wheel around. So we gotta spin the motor around. The way we do that is obviously the spark plugs are out, and we put the motorcycle in 5th gear and put it on a jack, which I have right underneath the motorcycle right here. Okay, so now we go ahead and we swing the motor around. One, we're making sure we're not hitting valves. Okay, and 2, we're checking to see, and we're going to get ourselves set up here to see where we're at as far as the valves go. All right, and we should be just sitting right there at top dead center on the back cylinder. All right, so now we've gone ahead and we've swung the motor around and got it to top dead center of the rear cylinder, and this is where we go ahead and 1, 2, 3, and a half. We do the same thing with this. Get a little tighter. 1, 2, 3 and a half. Now these lifters are probably pumped down a little bit. We're gonna swing it over and try to make sure that we get these lifters pumped up enough and we're gonna probably have to readjust them again, but just in case, we're gonna go ahead, lock these down, swing it around, see if things have changed, and then go from there.